Hello friends, Adam here with FED. So I've now played the first couple maps of Project Triangle Strategy. I hope they changed that name. Octopath Traveler worked, at first it was Project Octopath Traveler and then it just kept the name. I really hope they changed Triangle Strategy. That one just doesn't work for me. I don't think it fits the game as well either. So played the first couple maps, so I've done quite a bit of the story stuff too, and I had my first time with the what is it called? The something of conviction, the scales of conviction, whatever. And I gotta say, this game feels like it is very, very focused on that scales of conviction stuff and on the story, which seems intriguing enough to me. But the gameplay, and by gameplay I mean like the battles on the maps where you're actually controlling your units and like all the turn-based RPG stuff, that stuff is honestly a little disappointing to me. Granted, this is a very early build of the game, of course. I mean, it's a very early demo. They did this with Octopath Traveler as well. They released a really early demo and then took feedback and then changed the game up a little bit. So before I talk about some things that I hope get changed by the time this game comes out, I want to talk about the positives. The conviction thing, like picking your path, seems really cool if you are actually able to manipulate it in an effective way. It seems really, really cool, and it could lead to a lot of replayability and branching paths, especially if the battles actually change a lot. For instance, it's the first one that you do in the demo. You're either supposed to, the choices are to give up the prince to save your people, or like not to, like, essentially just to keep a battle from happening, or choose to protect the prince. And going into this, I thought it was just going to be solely my choice, but it's not. It's not solely like your choice. You have to convince the NPCs who are on the opposite side of the decision to join your side of this decision. Then it comes down to an actual vote where everyone casts their vote into the balanced thing of conviction. And it's actually a pretty interesting mechanic. But I'm a little worried about the execution of it. I'm a little nervous that we're not going to be able to affect it as much as I'd like to. But overall, I think it's a really fun idea and it could be really cool. The story itself seems really good. And by really good, I mean as much as I know so far, it seems really intriguing. The voice acting is a little rough, but again, super early. I'm sure that might be cleaned up a little bit. The script might be cleaned up a little bit. But overall, it seems like an intriguing enough premise for me to want to play it for the story, at least a little bit. And the music, particularly the boss music. When a boss attacks you, the music changes, and it's actually a really good song. And again, that's just the second map. That's as far as I've gone. And it was actually really, really good. The music ranges from like okay to really good. I haven't heard a single track that I've been like, please stop, yet. All right, now onto the negatives, the things that I really just didn't like about this game. So what works for this game on the battle system is that they got rid of, there's no MP, they got rid of MP, which I think is great. They just have like these little point, like just little diamonds underneath of your HP bar, and those increase if you don't do any actions, and if your actions cost those little points essentially. And I think that can be I think that's a really nice replacement for MP. I don't think MP works super well in a strategy RPG or a tactics game, especially in a game like if you play the original Final Fantasy Tactics, you just win the map in a turn or two by using all your best spells and your best attacks and everything ASAP, because you start the battle with full MP every time, and it leads to late game being kind of a cakewalk when you're just smashing enemies with your best stuff right out of the gate. They kind of fixed that in like Final Fantasy Tactics. I haven't played Advanced very much, but I know Final Fantasy Tactics A2 for the DS. Every battle you start with 0 MP and increases by 10 every turn. So you have to wait a few turns before you can just unleash on the enemy with your best stuff, which I think is an interesting enough compromise for that. But I think this is my favorite as far as like casting magic and stuff outside of just having like a limited amount of uses like you do in Fire Emblem. This is probably the most interesting one I've seen that I kind of like it. I do like that you have these little points that just increase and decrease throughout the battle. And essentially you want to use your strong fire spell with Frederica. Well, you need to wait an extra turn to make sure you have 2 little dots of power. That's all cool stuff. I like that. Now officially into the stuff that I'm not a big fan of. The game is slow. And I know tactics games, they're meant to be slow. I get that. It's supposed to be slow, methodical. You're supposed to be able to think it out. But it's not slow in that the game runs slowly, which I think it does at times. But again, early build, you could get better. But all your units have such a small amount of move. Aside from there's one that can fly, and that's really awesome. She can get everywhere. Huette. I really appreciate that. But a lot of your other units just have a really hard time moving around the map, especially when there starts to be a lot of verticality to these maps that you have to work with. Like the second map, that's the one that you see on screen right now. And that was just me getting footage. I wasn't playing super seriously. I was just moving units around, doing silly stuff. But like, it's really hard to move units around, and it leads to a situation where it holds back your flying unit, your Huette, or your spy Anna, who have the ability to go up higher elevations and move a lot farther than other units. Granted, Anna does have like stealth, which is cool, but that doesn't do a whole lot for you. I mean, I guess you could set up for some interesting combo attacks for it, but I just think that the movement is bad, meaning the game is slow, which hurts. Like, the map is just too big. In my opinion, the map is just a little too big for how little movement you have. So that's a pain. I also, again, early build thing, I don't like the lack of customizability. I'm going to keep comparing this to Final Fantasy Tactics because this obviously feels like a shot at making like a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics. The units aren't customizable in the way I would like. They learn skills and abilities similar to how you do in like Chrono Trigger or maybe like Final Fantasy IV. As you level up, you learn things. As you level up, you just learn stuff along the way. And you gain TP, and I'm pretty sure that's tech points. Again, that could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's tech points. Similar to at least that's what I went to right away when I saw TP. Because again, Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games, so I see TP, I think tech points, and that's how you learn abilities. That could be wrong, but you get like extra TP by doing stuff. I don't know. That could all be wrong. Just disregard that. But what the game lacks in unit like customization, I think it really does do a good job. I will say this. It does do a really good job of making each character very unique. Each character very unique. They all have their niche, and they all have things they do well over others, and that can be nice. That can be really cool. It's similar to Octopath Traveler in that way, where every job, every class had a very specific niche. You know, you had Ulbricht's classes like Warrior or something like that, and he was all about dealing physical damage and taking hits. That was his thing, taking physical damage and dealing physical damage. And then you had someone like Ophelia, who was like, I heal a lot, do a little bit of magic damage on the side, and take magic damage relatively well. And I can see that being a similar theme in this game, because you have your main character who just deals a lot of damage. He's kind of like okay, but then you have this like knight guy. His class is called Shield Bearer. He deals like no damage, like his damage output's really bad, but he has a lot of he can manipulate where the enemy is. He can like push them 5 spaces, which is ridiculous. And he can also just take damage, and he can provoke the enemy and stuff like that. The damage output's not there for him to be like your traditional like Armor Knight and like Fire Emblem, but he seems to be set up in a way to be the damage taker. And then you have this other guy whose name is escaping me because again, I've just started playing this. The guy with the monocle, one of the main characters. His whole thing is buffing your allies. He can raise their defense or raise their attack at first, and then he gets other skills along the way. And I think that's a really cool niche to have and really cool character to deploy. So I like that. I like having these niches, these things that make these characters unique. But I hope they add just a little bit more customization in the long run. And again, that might happen even just in another couple maps in the demo. I'm still going to finish it. I don't really know how long the demo is. I've just played, again, the first couple maps and the story up until then. It's a lot to take in, you know. But I wanted to give you guys my thoughts. So again, big problems. Game is really slow, and not in just like a yes, there's a fast forward button, but performing actions and like making decisions and you're moving your units takes a long time, just because of the low movement. That's my biggest complaint. I hope that they give just buff movement just here and there, make it more interesting. The conviction system, the whole like voting and deciding where you're gonna what choices to make is interesting. I do fear though that it's going to be really basic, and once you do like your exploring, you talk to people and you find out information, that when you find out the information, it unlocks different conversation paths to have with people to convince them to make different choices. I'm afraid that when those unlock, it's just like, oh, well, that's just the conversation you're supposed to have. Pick the one that unlocked and you'll move forward. And unlocking them isn't like, it didn't feel like difficult or special or anyway. Again, it could get better later on, but it was literally you talk to someone and it says, oh, look, you learned some new information. Maybe that'll help you convince people. And that's it, I guess. So overall, this has been my kind of my jumbled thoughts, and I might do a better, more cohesive thought piece when I finish the demo eventually. I'm just having a hard time going back to it because it's slow. Like it's hard for me to go back to it, which is the biggest thing that hurts. Is I want it to be really good and I want to like it, but I'm having a hard time liking it right now. But for now, these are my just like kind of my scrambled up thoughts, that I think it has potential, but it definitely needs a lot of work before I really would be interested in putting a full playthrough of the game through it. Just because at this point I get bored. But it's pretty, sounds good, and there's a lot of potential, especially if units keep growing and you just get just like a smidgen, just a touch of customization in there, and I think it would be awesome. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of Project Triangle Strategy or whatever? Just horrible name. Yeah, we all thought Octopath Traveler was weird. That's just clunky and bad. But let me know what you think of it in the comments. Do you think it's good? Are you going to play it when it comes out? Like, do you have like strong feelings one way or the other? Do you think my critiques are stupid? Do you think I'm wrong? And remember, before you comment, that I did say a lot of positive things about the game, and I think I said more positive things than I did negative things. Just that the negative things are kind of a big deal to me. But yeah, so be nice in the comments. But yeah, tell me what you think. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't, because we'll probably cover this game in the future. And yeah, I'll talk to you later.